Privacy. Privacy is such an important matter that we need to be able to understand what it really is. How much do we balance privacy with family matters, and how much do we keep to ourselves? How much do we share with others? What do we share with others? This could be really tricky, but when we understand the balance of when issues are happening in the family, and everybody has issues, when issues are happening in the family, who do we share it with? And how do we protect our privacy? What is the balance? And this is really important for us to understand and to really highlight in our lives as we grow our families, as well as we are able to overcome these issues. And who do we ask for help? And I hope to share some ideas with you regarding privacy in the family and the balance of keeping it, as well as a few practical tips at the end. It says in Parshat Yitro, and I quote, "The Jewish people said to Moshe, 'You speak to us and we shall hear. Let God not speak to us lest we die.' So Moshe said to the people, 'Do not fear, for in order to elevate you has God come, so that awe of him shall be upon your faces, so that you shall not sin.'" End quote. The sage Mehilta explains that the awe of him shall be upon your faces really refers to the midah of busha, to the character trait of busha, right? Of shame, meaning feeling shamed. What does that really mean? So Rabbeinu Bechaik wonders, how can it be that the Mehilta takes a pasuk that speaks about yira, which is awe, and says that it is actually talking about busha, which is shame? How is fear of Hashem and feeling shamed, how is that related? And he continues and answers that yira comes from the heart, not the face. When I'm awed by Hashem, when I'm awed the way he runs my life, then it is from my heart. It is not from the face. When the pasuk speaks about the trait that is related to a person's face, that it must be talking about shame, which we can detect on people's faces because they turn red when they are ashamed. According to the Mechilta, then a person with a strong sense of shame will fear sinning. He will feel indebted to Hashem for all that he grants him, and he will feel so grateful to Hashem that he is embarrassed to sin. Just like we can understand disappointing our parents, we respect our parents, we're in awe of them, we're grateful for all that they have done for us. We are afraid of shaming ourselves in front of our parents. And this is definitely a normal trait and a normal way of looking at life and relating to our parents, that we don't want to disappoint them. Right? The biggest gift we can give them is nachat, feeling proud of us, proud of their children. So how does that relate to the spiritual level in our times? Rav Shach was sitting at a meeting with a group of educators, and he wondered aloud why the spiritual level has severely deteriorated in our times. So one educator reasoned that the problem fell under the general understanding that generations will continue to deteriorate in terms of spirituality, and that previous generations were just so much holier. This is the general understanding, that as life goes on, as generations pass, the previous generations were at a much higher spiritual level than the generation after. But Rav Shach strongly disagreed. He said, this is not the reason why the spiritual level has deteriorated in our times. And Rav Shach disagreed by saying, when I was young, and I'm quoting, when I was young back in Europe, circumstances were far from perfect. There were all sorts of philosophies and movements ensnaring the youth: socialism, communism, Bundism, humanism, and the Yiddishkeit movement, to name a few. Plenty of people went off the derech, but on a societal level, the world was still a better place. You know what the difference was? Back then, there was a sense of busha. People weren't perfect. They had their foibles, but at least there was a sense of shame, a feeling that there's certain things that you just don't do in public. People's inhibitions kept a moral restraint on society. The last Mishnah, which is end quote, the last Mishnah Sota predicts that in a painful period leading to the Mashiach's arrival, there will be an abundance of chutzpah, brazenness. People are daring, children severely misbehaving, and have a sense of chutzpah, daring behaviors. So Rav Shach said, the reason for that is, the reason for the deteriorating of society and generations is not simply because it's just expected to happen, that it's before Mashiach's arrival, the society is expected to deteriorate in spirituality. But he said this is because of busha, lack of shame in the society that we live in. The breakdown of society we are witnessing today has very little to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with humanity as a whole. Regarding privacy, humans are supposed to tower above animals. We are supposed to be above animals, and we are. We have the ability to speak. Animals don't have the ability to speak and communicate the way we do, or to think. Especially in the concept of busha, animals have no shame. If they feel like an animalistic drive is coming their way, whether they want to be with their mate, or they want to kill a deer fawn right in front of his mother just because they're hungry, that's what they'll do. No sense of shame, no sense of respect. They'll do anything in public because they are not embarrassed to be seen in engaging in something that should be private. Humans used to have a sense of shame, but not anymore. Most people don't. If the individual didn't have shame, someone else will quickly remind him in previous times, you don't talk like that in public. You don't do that in public. You need only to turn on the radio or open a newspaper nowadays to witness the erosion of any sense of decency. Nowadays, anything goes. Whatever I think, it could be on my mouth. You could like it or you could love it. Just deal with it. What no one would have dreamed of talking about in public just 20 years ago is just common language now. Parents let their children curse or use profanity, and just because they're their own individual, and anything just goes. There's no sense of shame. Millions of people now, via social media, share details of their lives that no one would even have imagined just 10 years ago. Now, it is impossible to turn back the clock and turn back time on general society, but we have to do our part to raise our children with the value of privacy, of understanding that what shouldn't be shared in public is in the private realm. It's in the family. It's between us. It doesn't need to be shared. Just because I have it, I don't need to flaunt it, right? Just because I have this issue doesn't mean everybody needs to know about it. So what is that balance? So if we do remain private and we do remain respectful of our issues in the family, one day, hopefully, Mashiach will arrive and will put an end to the brazenness and the chutzpah that has invaded our world. So personally, I'm really not judging anyone as I'm sending over this video. I'm not judging anyone. But because Hashem gave me this opportunity, this platform to give over and to share, I want to share my own few thoughts about privacy. We know that talk shows now are so incredibly popular, and why so? Because people are displaying the privacy of their lives, right? Just the inner part of their lives, the private parts out into society, out in public, and they're feeling shamed, and it's funny to shame others, right? It's funny to ridicule others, to catch them doing the wrong thing, catch them on stealing or lying. And this is considered, just funny or entertaining. It's entertainment. And people just talk the way they want to. They say, you know what? I'm going to say it how it is. You either like it or you love it. This is the way I am. This is how I was born. This is my nature. What people fail to realize is that they can work on their nature and they can change. People just don't want to, or they just don't believe that they can. I had someone I knew at work that just, was very difficult to deal with. And just because they said, you know what, I come from this type of family, this is the way I was raised, this is the way I am, I'm too old to change. You can like it or you could love it. And it was very difficult. It's very difficult to work with such a person or deal with such a person. I had a personal story recently where I had a few people just come up, just not feel comfortable cursing around me, and they would see me. And I wondered, why is that? Maybe because they see a person that they should just watch their mouths, because, a person that doesn't talk like that. I really try not to talk like that. And they just feel like uncomfortable around me. Why? Because it's a sense of shame. I shouldn't talk like that. Even though I don't know this person, even though I know this person, it doesn't matter. It's just not right. And it was interesting. One teacher told me, is it okay to just pressure say this much curses? And I was just laughing. I said, next week should be less. But it was just interesting to me that we can have an effect on each other. It's not really tooting my own horn and saying, wow, we really should try to become more private, to become careful, to become more considerate of the way we treat other people, of the information that we disclose, the way we speak. It's really, really, really important. So now I'm going to share with you 3 practical tips on how to balance privacy in the family. Okay. So number 1 is really try not to use social media unless it's for the purposes of professionalism, to promote yourself. I know it's hard, but to really try to limit how much you share about your family, the vacations that you take. People post, every single part of their lives, where they went, if they're at the gym, if they're going shopping, if they're at a vacation, there's somebody that you're probably hurting. There's somebody who wants to go and shop, somebody who wants to go away. It says, unless you have to disclose this information to someone, don't show pictures, don't show it off. If you have to text someone privately, send a message, this is different, but showing it, blasting it off to hundreds and thousands of people, we really have to understand that we don't live in a vacuum. We live with other people, whether we know them and we're not, and we are responsible for the way we treat others. We have to be careful. We don't live in a vacuum. So number 1 is try to use social media if you need to promote yourself, your business, but sharing the details of it, really try to keep it private, especially part of your lives. Okay, so number 2 is, besides social media, also WhatsApp groups. WhatsApp is amazing, has great uses, but also how much that we share. Sometimes we have, community groups that we can share information that shouldn't be shared, that should really, we have to be careful. And I know it's a difficult balance. I'm also working on that. But, just how much do we share to other people? We can really hurt someone. We can make someone jealous, just unintentionally. And of course, we try not to. But of course, if you do hurt and you're hurting someone, or you have, apologize and just make a new start. But just try to be careful. Being careful it's better to be careful than to make that mistake. And the number 3 is, don't share family matters with family, meaning like the extended family. Keep it private. If you have an issue in the family, between husband and wives especially, try to get a mentor, a rabbi, a coach, a counselor, someone to help you in that matter. Unless in certain situations where you have someone in the family, you really have to ask your rabbi. In the Jewish world, we have a rabbi who can really help us. Who do I share this information to? And very few individuals in the family can actually be helpful and unbiased. The biggest professional is biased. This is their family. So why would we want to disclose information to everyone where it's probably not going to be helpful? So what the private matter is, it's not going to be discussed in the video. It's really personal to every situation. But try to have someone to help you. If you're going back and forth with your spouse about an issue, try to have someone to help you deal with it, to help you, solve this problem, solve this issue. And hopefully this is going to be, we're going to be more private, more respectful of the matters that we have. We're going to be ashamed to and embarrassed to sin, to to talk the way we want to talk, to do things in public what we do in private. It's not in and it shouldn't be, but because of our society, because of the world we live in, we have to recognize it, and we have to say, you know what, this is not the way it should be. I'm going to be that example. It always starts with one person. One person can affect many. You want to be that person where it says, you know what, I shouldn't talk like that around this person. I shouldn't act like that around this person. One of the strategies that I give over in my life coaching is, if you really admire someone, how do you act when you admire someone and that person is present, whether you're working on being patient, less frustrated? How would you act if that person was right here in this frustrating moment? And we could use our gift of imagination in order to help us, enable us to become careful with the way we act and the way we talk. And hopefully this is going to enable Mashiach to come easily and soon in our times. Appreciating the insights of Rabbi Fran in his book, The Power of a Word, Leah Abramov, Being and Becoming, awakening awareness of your greatness and potential.